If you were fixing your bra straps, fussing with wires, or battling your bra during this podcast, stop right now. You'll want to hear this. Those bra problems, those problems you thought you had to live with, Third Love has solved them. Their bras make it easy to get what you want, whether it's ultimate cleavage, a smooth look, or stopping your shirt buttons from pulling. With over 60 sizes, including half cups you won't find anywhere else, you'll never be stuck between two sizes that don't fit. So stop settling for bad bras. Now's the time to treat yourself and get your problem solved. Save $15 on your first order with code PODCAST15 at thirdlove.com.
Realized that every time the kids came home from school and I was upset about something, and for a kid to say like, "Mom, are you okay?" and for me to say, "I'm fine." And the thought process at the time was, I'm not going to put this on you. You don't have to deal with what I'm struggling with. But what I was teaching them was, I'm going to lie and I'll share that I am struggling and that it's going to be okay and it's not your fault. It took that experience for me to realize that I was teaching my children to be fully emotionally disconnected.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here with the brilliant Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
We are back for our first podcast recording after our Cancun retreat, and we're fighting for our lives, people. We're fighting for our lives.
It was a great trip. It was awesome, but a bug followed us back from Cancun.
It was a bad bug as well. Bree and Christina were rooming together, and then I was rooming with our friend Shada, and Shada got hit so hard. I won't go into specifics. Nobody needs to know that. Just think what Mexico's typically. I don't know. I don't even want to say that about Mexico because it's not true. But I'll leave it to your imagination what happened.
Well, you know what? I'm not surprised that Christina got sick. You know why? Because we were rooming together, and I was telling my husband this morning. I'm like, it's no wonder she got sick. I'd be like, oh, this drink is tasty. Have a sip. Even when I was sick, remember how I had to cut out Saturday night after dinner? I'm like, sorry, guys, I just got to like chill in the room. And I couldn't eat much. And I remember eating like a little bit and being like, I can't eat anymore. Do you want the rest of my meal? And she's like, yeah, sure.
You just can't stop for sharing your food.
Can't stop.
No. Oh my good. It's so funny. Now my comment at breakfast makes sense because I was asking her at breakfast, oh, like, how's Bree feeling? And she's like, oh, good, like some headaches. And I'm like, I'm surprised Bree hasn't gotten the stomach stuff because she's like the canary in the coal mine when it comes to stomach stuff. And I think I know why now because you're like, I like this food. Do you want this food? Let me taste your food. Let's do all this food. No wonder your stomach issues.
No wonder.
Everything. Well, our podcast episode has nothing to do with this and is a much better topic than stomach issues.
Exactly. Yes. It is June, people, and June has a lot of amazing things about it. It's the start of summer vacation. It's the end of school for many of us, but also it is a month where we look at and we talk about LGBTQ rights and we talk about
otherwise known as Pride Month.
Pride Month.
It is Pride Month. And we want to
really deep to my heart.
And we want to make sure that this is an inclusive podcast where that all points of representation are like, we want to bring them in and we want to expose everybody to them and not just have the heteronormative point of view. So welcome to Pride Month, guys, on the No Guilt Mom podcast. This is going to be fun. And our first guest this month is Elena Joy Thurston. She's the CEO of Latitude, a boutique HR consulting agency. She's an inspirational speaker and workforce development strategist. She helps leaders identify and deconstruct shame by teaching actionable inclusion skills that carry over into homes and communities. Elena is a very proud mom of 4, 2 boys, 23 and 21, a trans child who is 16, and a daughter who is 14. And with that, let's get on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, Elena. We're so happy you could join us here. And we're sad that we can't do this in person because you're actually close to us.
I know.
Right? If it wasn't for all those tummy germs y'all are harboring.
Maybe it's better that you're not doing this in person, actually.
Yeah, Elena's like, I think I'll pass on that invite to go to coffee for now.
Let me get my
Don't
boosters.
take anything Bree offers you.
Yes. If I
She
sip
will
on
try to
something-
feed you.
Yes. Yes.
Noted.
Well, Elena, you were recommended by our good friend Sarah Dean.
Love Sarah.
We love Sarah. If Sarah lived in like the area, she would be a coffee person as well. We would love to see her
weekly.
all the time.
Absolutely. Yes.
All the time. Well, you have a TEDx speech that's how I familiarized myself with you. And listening to your story, I was pulled in immediately to exactly how you lived within this environment that like you had the house, you had the family, you were very involved in your faith. You were baking, as you said in the speech, banana bread every week and doing all of those things. Start us out there. What was your life like at that time?
Yeah. My husband at the time and I, we were those people that kind of figured out what we wanted and then we figured out how to get there, right? We were very focused, we were very intentional. And a lot of that was because we had this structure around us, the structure of this faith community that was really dominant in our lives. And within that structure, we kind of determined, okay, success is a married family, raising our kids in this faith, having them go on missions, and eventually having grandbabies, right? There was like a very specific path. And so because that's what success was, we were on that path. We were very focused. Life happens, and it turns out that wasn't very authentic to me, but I couldn't identify that at the time. It felt like restlessness. It felt like angst. It felt like, oh, I guess this is what life is like when my youngest goes off to school. And now I'm like even more of that stay-at-home mom in the neighborhood, which means I got to join a gym. I got to get the next level of car, right? Like there were all these things. And it was just like, okay, maybe this weird feeling inside me is just because of that, because this new part of my life has started. And then to realize through a series of events that no, my body isn't telling me what it needs because it's not safe to tell me what it needs because I am not straight, but I am trying to play this very straight role, and it was destroying my mental health. But I didn't have the words for that at the time.
How did you come into that realization? That's a big question, I know, right there.
That's okay. Let me summarize it for you. So I was feeling really angsty, but no one uses the words like anxiety and depression because it just means that you don't have a close enough relationship to God.
Oh,
and
that's
so
limiting. Gosh.
Right. So there I was struggling in that. And my youngest had gone off to kindergarten. I was like, okay, time to join a gym. So I joined one of those gyms that's I don't know, practically a cult, right? But I loved it because for the first time, I had to really be in my body without all these other thoughts going on. Because when you're doing a deadlift, if you're distracted with 300 other thoughts, you're going to hurt yourself. So you're kind of forced to be really present, really in your body. And for the first time in my life, I had that experience and really, really liked it. It felt good. It felt calming. It felt peaceful. Of course, we can talk about all the chemicals that exercise releases into your brain to make you feel good, right? So very quickly, I was like, oh, I'm an athlete now. I'm weightlifting and I'm running and I'm doing all these things. And again, because I'm that really focused, structure, success person, I had a trainer. So then I also hired a running coach. And this running coach was a fly fisher in his spare time. And I owned my own photography studio. So he and I were trading. He was doing running programs for me, and I was teaching him how to take beautiful pictures when he's out on these very expensive fly fishing trips, because fly fishers don't keep the fish. All you have after you spend all this money and time are pictures, right? So I was teaching him how to use his phone to take really beautiful pictures. And then his friends, who were also fly fishers, wanted that help as well. And then I realized, okay, if I'm going to charge for this, I should probably try the sport.
Yeah.
And I found myself in that exact same place of you have to be so present or you just end up in a massive tangle. And So you're standing in the water in a beautiful place, the trees and the air and the water, and you're so hyper present. And that's when your body can start telling you some truths. And it was through that process that it became just incredibly clear to me that when I was home, when I was in my master bedroom, I was not feeling safe. But when I could find presence outside, I was able to access that safety. And so it just kind of grew from there.
Wow.
Wow. You tell in your TEDx talk, you tell the story of you were sitting by your friend and she like put her hand on your knee and you just had this feeling of butterflies.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely that was a huge part of it because it was this realization of, oh, people really do feel this. I had heard all those phrases and seen the rom-coms and all those things. And I just had really convinced myself after having been married for 17 years that this isn't something that actual real people experience. Like that's just romance books. And then to like feel it for the first time at 37, that will change your world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot to take in.
What was the first time you acknowledged this both in yourself and then you told it to somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's always a journey. Coming out to yourself at 37 is not like a really easy thing.
That can't be easy. No.
Right? You know, that night happened and I had this reaction and I realized, oh, this really does happen and I'm not broken. Because that was the other narrative, was maybe it does happen for some people, but not for me.
Yeah.
And so the next thought was, I can't be this way. I will lose my children. I cannot be this way.
Right.
And so it was days and days and weeks of, okay, Elena, you're going to go for a run and you're not going to stop until you don't feel this way anymore. And 7 miles, 8 miles later, my toes are bleeding, but I still felt that way. And so then it was, I need someone to fix me. I can't fix myself, apparently, so I need someone else to fix me. And I reached out to different leadership in my congregation, and they suggested someone who's been in town a long time. He's been doing this practice for 40 years, and he still is. He's just 5 miles up the road. And I started going 4 days a week, 2 hours a day.
I have so many questions, especially because, like, again, this like hits so close to home for me and my family.
Well, with those questions, we're going to get more into it and hear the rest of your story, Elena, right after this break.
Okay, guys, the C word, it runs in my family, and a yearly physical just doesn't give me all the things I need to know. And that's why I am so excited about Function Health.
Exactly. We know you've heard us talk about it, but Function Health is truly the all-in-one health platform that helps you take control of your health through data. Instead of guessing what's happening inside your body, Function helps you know, providing access to over 160 tests.
These tests go way beyond most traditional checkup. We're talking about insights to your thyroid, hormones, liver, heart health, autoimmunity, kidney function, and even heavy metal toxicity.
What I love is that your Function membership includes biannual testing. So you establish a baseline and then you can easily spot changes over time. I'm really interested in the tests that help with understanding food and emotions and boosting my energy. So take control of your health outside the doctor's office today and get a $100 credit towards your annual membership at functionhealth.com/no guilt. But act fast. The $100 credit is only for the first 1,000 listeners. Sign up right now at functionhealth.com/no guilt. That's functionhealth.com/no guilt.
Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. WISP gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? WISP is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can finish the bachelor's degree you started in 19 months and under $19,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by PACE, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
So you were going through a form of conversion therapy, it sounds like. And
Correct. Yes.
how did you feel during that time? Was it, I think about like my nephew had gone through some of that at one time, and it was unintentional, but obviously looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that was pretty much conversion therapy. And I know that he had a lot of self-hate. He would share later about what went through that. Is that similar to your story? Like how?
Yeah, so let me share some things, but also let me just kind of warn anyone who's listening who does have a personal connection to this to kind of put your emotional guards up a little bit, because what I'm going to share might be kind of intense. So what I learned later is that 57% of participants who go through conversion therapy become suicidal. And that was actually so validating for me, because after 6 months of going 4 days a week, 2 hours a day, and your mom's actually, so let me kind of explain what this was. This was, you get up in the morning, you get all 4 kids ready for school, you get them in the minivan, you drop them off at school, and then you go to the gym for an hour, hour and a half, right? You go home, you change, and then you head to the quote therapist's office. And you sit there for 2 hours trying to figure out which horrible experience you had as a kid turned you gay. I'm going to say that in quotation marks as well. Okay. So for 2 hours, you relive a horrible experience, trying to desensitize yourself to it, because in hopes that that's going to make you straight. And then you pick up the kids from school, you come home, you do the homework, the piano, the karate, the dinner, the baths, the bedtime. And then you do it all over again, 4 days a week for 6 months. And you're paying over $200 a day to do that.
Oh my gosh.
So it is not hard to see how you can fairly quickly get to an end point of logic of, I am not supposed to be here. Yeah. I am harming my children. I am too broken. God doesn't want me. I shouldn't be here. Like, that's a pretty easy logic sequence to get to.
Yeah, 2017, you had gotten to that point, and a friend was able to pull you out of it. And I think like what your friend said to you was so powerful and is worth repeating here. Can you tell us what your friend said?
She said, you think, again, warnings. She said, you think killing yourself is going to stop the pain, but it doesn't. It just spreads it around. Which was the perfect thing to say to me, because the minute I thought about my children having even a fraction of the pain that I was experiencing, then it became not an option.
Yeah.
Logically and consciously. Unfortunately, because of neuroplasticity, once you practice a thought over and over and over and over again, and you add in somatic experiences like what was happening in conversion therapy, well, now you've rewired your brain. And that's why 92% of participants experience lifetime suicidal ideation.
That is crazy to hear about conversion therapy. And you mentioned that it can't even be called therapy because you can't get licensed to teach it. Nobody has a process for it. It's basically just
it's torture,
horribleness and torture. So you got out of that and you ended up coming out to your kids, and you were afraid of that at first.
Yeah.
That conversation with your sons. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So I was in the process of raising these 2 teenage Mormon boys, right? They had the priesthood. They were in scouts. They already knew it was going to be required of them to get their Eagle Scout and then go on a mission. That was like a non-negotiable, probably go to BYU for college, right? Like they had a path. And I was the one that had instilled that path in front of them. And I was the one that had told them about worthiness and how your actions determine your worthiness. So the idea that I was now needing to share with them, the fact that I was someone that they would deem unworthy, and I was the one that had taught them that. Like, that's just a lot.
Yeah.
And my ex and I had decided to move out of the neighborhood we were in because it was that neighborhood.
Yeah.
We moved to a neighborhood closer to the school where the kids could walk to each other, both of our houses, as well as to the school. No more carpool for me.
Good deal.
So it was 6 months after I had moved out, and we were sharing custody, and it was just time. I couldn't hide this from them anymore. And I'll tell you what, this is a new memory surfacing. It was the therapist I had at the time, because I was like, I'm just going to stay in the closet until the boys get off on their missions. Because there's a rule in the church that if your parent is gay, then you either need to renounce them to go on a mission or don't go on a mission. And I did not want to put them through that.
Yeah.
So I was determined that I would stay in the closet till they had left on their missions, which they were 15 and 13. So we were quite
that's
a few
long
years
time.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily I had this amazing therapist who was like, you're going to deny your sons the experience of getting to know their real mom before they're adults? Again, the perfect thing my brain needed to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, that night I was just like jazzing myself up for it. And I come down the stairs and they're playing video games in the living room. And it was like, I need to share this with you. And they fully already knew. Fully. Completely. This
Were
was
they
not
like,
a surprise
look at
to
you for a
them.
minute? Yeah, Mom, we know. Can we go back to our
Yeah.
game?
Oh my That's
God.
exactly what happened.
Oh my God.
And I had been so
predictable.
stressed.
And you're just like, what? I've done such a good job over the years.
Yeah, trying to mask all of this, but no, they're not dumb. And that was a big lesson in my motherhood 2.0 was to realize that every time the kids came home from school and I was upset about something, like let's say I'm like mopping the floor really hard, upset with something, right? And for a kid to say like, Mom, are you okay? And for me to say, I'm fine. And the thought process at the time was, I'm not going to put this on you. You don't have to deal with what I'm struggling with. But what I was teaching them was, I'm going to lie to you. And I'm not going to share with you that I am struggling and that it's going to be okay. And it's not your fault, but I am struggling. Let's not ignore the elephant in the room, right? But it took that experience for me to realize that I was teaching my children to be fully emotionally disconnected.
Oh, that is a like hard conclusion to come to as a parent, because so many moms probably can relate to that comment of just telling your kids that you're fine when really like you are breaking apart inside because you don't want to have them.
And they're not dumb. They see it.
They see it.
Well, we think it's our job to be the strong ones. And to some extent it is, right? But not the extent that many of us carry it to. Right? And yeah, we think that we're protecting them by them not knowing. But again, like you said, like we're teaching them, you keep it to yourself. You don't share your hard feelings. That's not something that's meant to be shared with others. You need to stuff that down or rage clean, whatever works, you know. Victim of rage cleaning over here plenty of times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So based on your experience, Elena, I'm going to shift our focus a little bit to being an ally and how we can be the best ally for our kids. And we're going to get into that right after this.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Being a woman is a lot. Ollie supports you and yours with expert solutions for every age and life stage. They just launched 2 new products exclusively at Walmart. Period Hero combats bloat, mood swings, and more during PMS. And Balance Perimeno to support hormonal balance, mood, and metabolism during perimenopause. Grab yours at ollie.com. Ollie! These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, and NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
So, Elena, My kids are my world, and my kids' friends, I want them to always know that they're coming over to a safe space and a safe house. And a few of my daughter's friends have come out already, but I want to know, how can we as parents, how can we be a good ally to our kids, to our kids' friends? What specific things do we need to keep in mind?
Yeah. So I approach this very differently than your typical, I don't know, someone who would talk about allyship. I approach it from, and it's probably because of my journey, where I had to start was identifying the internalized bias and homophobia and transphobia within me, right? Because that's what was threatening my mental well-being, was having been in this community for so long. If I ignored it, which I tried to do, I tried to say, like, I'm a good person. I would never hurt anyone. I'm an ally, right? I was fully identifying that way, and then couldn't understand why I was filled with this self-hatred.
Yeah.
So, right, once I could finally realize, like, no, Elena, there's every human on earth who was raised in Western society, regardless of whether you identify as a part of the community or not, we all have internalized bias. So start there. Get rid of that. It's not pretending, but it's a false correlation of I'm a good person, therefore I'm an ally, right? That's false, right?
Yeah.
So once we can break that reality and say, okay, I'm a good person, which means I know I'm going to be able to identify where that bias is within me and deconstruct it so that I can be an authentic ally rather than a performative ally.
Okay.
So it definitely starts there.
I think that's a big point right there. Authentic, as opposed to just saying the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to ask the same question Bree was. How do you start to deconstruct it? How do you start to like really look into that?
Yeah, I actually developed a framework because that's how my brain works. And it started with, in the first year or so after I came out, I had so many people around me who I loved and they loved me. I knew that, right? These are close people. And yet they were saying things that felt like a dagger to my heart. It hurt, but I knew they loved me, right? And they kept telling me they were my ally, but the things they were saying was hurting. And so it was creating this dissonance. And so I realized I was thinking of this, and most of us do think of it this way, as you're either kind of an ally to the community or you're an enemy to the community. And since I'm a good person, I must be an ally to the community. And then to realize, okay, very few things in life are binary, are black and white. Most things live on a spectrum. So if we take allyship into a spectrum, and on one hand, you have enemy, right? That's maybe on the far left side. And on the far right side, you actually have more. There's more than an ally. You have an advocate, and more than an advocate, you have an accomplice. Okay, so you have a whole spectrum in between those. And so then as I was hearing things that they were saying, things like, I mean, I support you and I love you, Elena, but I don't do politics.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can
right?
see how that's,
Where that's going to land you on that spectrum is willfully ignorant,
Yeah.
which is before ally, right? You might have, I love you, Elena, but this is going to take some time. That's ignorantly neutral, right? We're not at ally yet. To be an ally means you are using some of your position, power, influence, voice, actions to take action that involve a little bit of risk. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot of it. So it's things like I'm overhearing my brother tell me that he's not going to respect his kids' pronouns, right? And you take that risk to your relationship to say, that's going to hurt, and this is why. And so you're taking that little risk. Or same thing at work, right? Or going to the polls, or taking action that involves a little bit of risk is what we have to do to move up that allyship spectrum.
That is a great way to put it. Because the political comments get me so much. Like, they're like, oh, let's not be political. I'm like, we are not being political.
Yeah. No. This is not about politics. This is about, again, having that respect for others. But like you said, like acknowledging that you have a bias in there is an important factor. And I never thought about that piece. And that's a huge piece. And actually, I could think of how that would be a great gift to your kids too, letting them know you can be a good person and still have these biases within you. It doesn't mean that they're okay and that we should continue having them. But them trying to ignore them or to think that they can still be supportive of others while they still harbor this like internal, like, for you, okay, but not for me or anybody else kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. And I have a great story of how that happens kind of in action, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah. We love stories.
Okay. So a few months after I came out, there I am, like, I'm in my new rental for the first time. I'm trying to live every day as this lesbian. I'm this baby gay who knows almost nothing, right? Like, when I came out, I didn't know anyone in the community. I didn't know where my community was. And so, of course, being me, I went headfirst into the rabbit hole trying to learn everything about LGBTQ plus culture. And so there's this TV show that everyone in the community loves. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch every episode of this TV show, and then I'm going to learn everything about the community.
What was the TV show?
It was a great plan. You wait.
Okay.
So there I am, sitting on my couch, turning on Netflix to watch this show or whatever platform it was. And I couldn't get through the first episode. So at this point in my life, I'm actually paying attention to my own feelings and actually paying attention to when my body is uncomfortable. So I couldn't deny, I couldn't pretend that I wasn't uncomfortable. And so this was a moment that I was using to like, okay, there's something here for me to learn about myself. What is it? And the TV show was RuPaul's Drag Race. Yeah. And the discomfort when I could finally, like, first there's a blanket of shame on top. And the shame was like, why is this show making me uncomfortable? I'm a part of the community, right? It's not like I'm transphobic. Like, why is this making me uncomfortable? And like, okay, once I could take that shame away and get to the heart of it and to realize, okay, for me, watching men in drag is an example of men taking power, influence, and money away from women.
Oh.
And that made me angry.
Yeah.
And I was ashamed of that anger because I was a part of the community, right? So once I was able to admit that to myself, then, only then, in that real space, could I ask, okay, but is it true? I've never been to a drag show. I don't know any drag queens. I have no idea if that assumption is true. Maybe I need to get out there and have some lived experience and make my own choice because I am done living my life according to the values of other people.
Yeah.
So
what I was told I should think.
exactly.
Yes.
Right? So then I went to a few drag shows and I found a few drag queens who were willing to befriend ex-Mormon, baby gay me. And very quickly, it became very apparent, no man goes through the expense and time and pain of performing in drag to take anything from women.
Yeah.
That is not reality. It is a beautiful expression of gender. It is an incredible amount of confidence. It is so much things that I actually really respect and admire. And what it's not is a power grab. But it took me going through that lived experience to figure out that I had that internalized transphobia that I had been covering up with the shame of, oh, no, I can't feel this way. I'm a part of the community.
Oh, what you're describing there is a belief that was held so deep within you that you didn't know was there. And when you talk about going and having a lived experience so that you can make your own ideas and assumptions about it that were true, oh my gosh, it was just like light bulb for me because I've had conversations with friends and I've gotten into arguments with friends about this that has gotten so heated, I've had to stop the conversation because they are operating under an assumption that they have no lived experience for. And I want to ask you a question, like in terms of being an ally and being an advocate, when you're having that discussion with a friend and you come to an exact standstill, and this specific conversation was about allowing men and women to use the same bathroom at Target. And this friend was like, oh, I can't put my daughters through that. And my first question to her is, I'm like, have you ever like met a trans person? Do you know about anyone? She was like, no. And I had nowhere to go from there. What is your suggestion on how to take those conversations when you're up against something that you feel so strongly about And I wanted to defend, but I didn't know what else to say in that situation.
So I think there's a few things to take into account there. So one of them is, how close is this topic and this person to my heart?
Mm-hmm.
So if I was having a conversation like that with someone like my dad, like my brother, and those conversations have been had, my barrier has to be way, way, way up, because that's too much access to my heart. If I'm speaking with a friend, right, then I can have some objectivity, then I can have some space, and there's power in that space. And in that space, that's when I'm able to, for me, what I am trying to do is really see it from their perspective. And I'm blessed that I'm able to do that, because I was in that space till I was 38, right? And so when I'm having that conversation, I often start with, it really does feel, being a woman and using a public restroom is kind of vulnerable. Anything could happen. I've been attacked in a bathroom before by a woman who was tweaking out on drugs, but like every time I'm in the bathroom, I feel vulnerable. And so first, getting on the same page with that, right?
Yeah.
And for many of us as women, when we have been vulnerable and hurt, it is a man doing that hurt, committing that pain, right? So it is absolutely understandable, the idea of being in a vulnerable place and having a male in that space. I absolutely understand how that can make us feel really, really, really unsafe. So we really establish that first. And then we can elaborate that too. However, we know that 99.9% of trans people have never attacked anyone in a bathroom. It is understandable, the fear, because many men have.
Yeah.
Many. But very, very, almost none trans women have.
That's true. You had a light bulb go off in me, Elena, because I was like, I tend to get really riled up when I feel like I'm defending, and I've neglected in that situation, I think, to really take that friend's experience into consideration about why she might feel that way. And instead, I just wanted to assess a label to her right away and get even more riled up and mad. So
can I share how you might have that conversation with a male friend?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's way different, right?
Okay.
And so from in that way, how I approach that is from, the fact is, science says that 1 out of every 100 people is intersex, which means they're not just XX or XY, they are XXYYY or XYYY, right? There are actually up to 72 different combinations of chromosomes. And that can create within us someone who has a full beard, an Adam's apple, and a menstruating uterus. Where does that human, what bathroom does that human use to change their tampon?
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Right? And then you ask, like, imagine that they are in the men's restroom, that dirty, stinky, horrible men's restroom.
I know, they are so dirty.
Sitting on that, they're horrible. Sitting on that toilet, and everyone standing at the urinals hears the telltale sound of a rapper. Is that safe for them? Okay, take the same thing where that beard and that Adam's apple walks into the women's restroom. Same thing. So this is less about safety for the people who feel like they have a right to be in the bathroom, and this is actually more about the safety of the people who need a safe place to pee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd never thought of that before. The concept of intersex doesn't come up very much in the national dialogue we're seeing.
Yep, because it debunks everything.
It debunks everything. Well, Elena, thank you so much for joining us here today. We have learned so much from you. And like, it is not often that I can say like I have been taken aback and forced to like reassess what I did in a situation and really know how to go better going forward. So thank you for that. And we like to end every podcast episode on an exciting note. So what is exciting that is coming up for you in the future?
So I just in the last week transitioned my hair from my really dark, curly, thick hair. I had spent 20 years covering my roots, and I just did the math recently, and it was like $26,000.
I do not doubt it. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right? And it was like, once I saw that number, I was like, I can't do this anymore. But I also couldn't just allow 3 inches of gray roots to come in because no one in corporate America will hire you that way. Let's just be real and honest.
Mm.
And so I just did a full transformation all in one day. It took like 9 hours in the chair. And now it's time to like redo all my branding because all my headshots don't match. Like I look like a fully different person. And frankly, I feel way more authentic. And it's so fun and exciting. So that's what's going on.
I love that.
That is so fun and exciting.
That is so
It's like
cool.
so bright too. You're just like bright. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena, for joining us. And we will talk to you soon. Hopefully a coffee date when Bree and I will not give you the plague.
I love it.
I love it.
Okay. That was a powerful episode. I love talking to Elena about all of the allyship and all the things behind it. Because I mentioned, like, I tend to make snap judgments when people I feel are being like prejudiced, or I don't know how to say this because, like, I don't talk about this very publicly often, but I grew up in an environment when I was a camp counselor. I mean, there were quite a few counselors who were lesbians, and I love them and I feel protective of them and I feel protective of everything around the culture. So when somebody else comes out and is like, no, that's not okay, I push back pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that because I've talked about before, like I have a nephew who is trans, and I do feel very fiercely protective of him. And it's interesting, that whole conversation about the bias that people hold. And I've talked about this with close friends. I don't know if I'm ready for like a full on like podcast thing with it, but our family went through a lot trying to get to the point where we are now. My nephew is 25 and has been on this journey for well over 10 years. And I think that when we first started, we were all like just exactly like Elena. Well, we're good people. We're allies.
Mm-hmm.
This is our family member. We love him, her immensely. So of course we support it. But what we didn't realize then that I think that we could take a step back and see now is, like she just said, that we all had some internal bias about things, biases about things, and that had an impact on how we saw stuff in the very beginning. And like I said, like my nephew went to a therapeutic school, and because he was having difficulty with like it being in regular schooling. And so he went to like a dormitory, like went to Kansas because we had a connection with a therapeutic school out there that he could go to that we could, I'll be honest, afford the tuition for, because these schools are not cheap and not a penny of it is covered by your health insurance. Thank you very much to our broken health insurance of the United States of America. Anyway, it was Christian based. And we didn't think that would be that big of an issue until he came back. And I think that was the hardest time. Like we saw him, he was beat down. He was sad. He was so happy to be home when he was back from school. And looking at it now, I know that like there was either intentional or unintentional like conversion therapy that he had to go through. And that was hard. And at the time we were like, okay, well, they know what they're doing. They're licensed professional counselors, because they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, what happened, it wasn't like full on conversion therapy. I think it was just like, it was tough to see. And so I have always wondered like how I can be a better ally, how I can be more supportive, not only for my nephew, but for all those people that I don't know, that are struggling, that are scared, that feel like there are massive amounts of people that do not want them to be alive. Do not want them to exist, and how we can actually follow up on those quote unquote Christian values of loving one another and offering support to others. So that's why, this is like, it's personal.
Yeah. Well, as Elena said, part of allyship is taking a little bit of risk and putting yourself out there and maybe getting some pushback. And we know like we have brought up allyship on the podcast here and there, but we really haven't dove in straight into it. And so we are committing, both you and I, to diving more into it and being more outspoken about it and where our personal feelings land on the issue too. Yeah. Like you respect humans, all humans as humans. Like it does not matter their gender. It does not matter their sexuality. Like, they are human beings, and, period, and stop. Like,
I like that. Period and stop.
stop.
Yes.
Yes. So some of that is about speaking out about things that happen politically. And when I think of politics, I don't think of like, you're not just bashing another person. It's not like a race. It's not like, oh, Republicans versus Democrats. It's an idea of values and things like just seeing in the news today. I mean, gosh, the amount of crap that comes out on the news is probably going to be something different when this airs in like 2 weeks. But like the transgender issue in the military is back up again, and not letting people serve if they're transgendered, and people who are willing to put their lives on the line. You're like, I just can't. I can't
Grasp
see
it.
how that
Yeah.
values people as humans. I can't see how people would be so. See, here I go again into the defensiveness, because I know there's reasons, just like Elena said.
Right.
But here's my reason. Like, people are people, and stop. Like,
Yeah.
there's no threatening. They are not threatening. And the best I could do is, if you feel that way right now, try to find somebody who you can actually like talk to, who is transgendered or who is gay. Like, have some real like life experience behind your strongly held opinions, and then we could talk.
Yeah. Because again, like she said, I do think that personal experience is a big, big piece of it. So again, coming back from that step of that, I need to understand your personal experience and where you're coming from and why you have this differing opinion of mine. And then moving forward with that. Because again, I find that like some of the biggest differences of opinions I've had with people do rise from there being a miscommunication of some sorts along the way.
We have more in common than we realize.
Yes.
So when you find that out, you're much able to communicate with people. I don't know how I can get the orange Cheeto. I don't think I'll understand him, but yes, I know. I'm sorry. I said it. I said it, Brie. We've all been dancing around the Trump issue this entire episode, and I said it.
It's just, it's one of those
I know.
things. So again, like we hope that we're not asking that anybody heard this episode and it changed their lives. It's great if it did. That's fantastic. That's always a great thing. But we're hoping that if nothing else, has at least opened up a conversation and opened up some introspection about not only why we may hold some of these opinions that we have with or without personal life experience, and that we have a moment to pause and to realize that, we hear it all the time, that you don't always know what somebody else is going through on their side. Mm-hmm. That a lot of times pausing and hearing the stories that people have gone through, especially when trying to embrace a part of themselves that is against the general norm. Yeah. It's not an easy piece to have. And
not easy.
So we're hoping that this sparks more conversations within families. And that was our goal.
That's it. So until next time, remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You can also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.